Joining me now, Democratic Congressman and civil rights leader John Lewis, who has been campaigning for Stacey Abrams, of course, in Georgia. Congressman, it is great to see you. How do you think voters read that message? Do you have concerns that that message will be read as a threat or a warning to people who are concerned about what they may face at the polls?
First of all, it's just good to be with you. I think that message is the wrong message. It's saying, in effect, that we cannot create one America, one people, one family. I've said over and over again, we all live in the same house, the American house. You know, we're a country of immigrants. We all come from some other place. And it doesn't matter whether we're black or white, Latino, Asian American, or Native American. We live in the American house, but in the world house. And as Dr. King said on many occasions, we must learn to live together as brothers and sisters. If not, we will perish as fools. Having gone through what you went through in the civil rights era, you were 23 years old, I think, on the Edmund Petty Bridge at Selma. What does it mean to you as a Georgian to have Stacey Abrams as the standard bearer for the Democratic Party and so competitive in the race for the governor's mansion? Well, I moved to the state in 1963 when I was 23 years old, and I've seen unbelievable changes. There's a greater sense of hope, a greater sense of optimism. You know, I grew up in rural Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery, and living here and getting involved in the life of the state and the city of Atlanta, her election would mean unbelievable, just unbelievable sense of hope and progress, not just for the state of Georgia, but for our region, for the South and for the nation. I think she will inspire people around the world to believe that we all can change, that we all can bring about progressive change. What's your message to young people who have notably not been voting in the past in terms of how important the fight for the vote is? Well, I've been saying to young people, and it doesn't matter whether they're black or white, Latino or Asian American, I say the vote is precious. It's almost sacred in a democracy such as ours. It is the most powerful nonviolent instrument or tool that we have, and we must use it to bring about change. And I said, one of you maybe can become the governor of Georgia, or the mayor of the city of Atlanta, a member of Congress, a president of the United States. Dream dreams and never give up. Be hopeful, be optimistic. It's a very important message. More important now than ever before. Thank you so much, John Lewis. Congressman, thanks for being with us today.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.